It's Breakfast Daily on Citi TV, and it's time for Tax Dialogue. And I have your two favorite tax people here with me, Dr. Alex Ampaabeng, who's a fiscal tax analyst, and Leonard Shang-Quart from Justice Coalition. Why am I blanking? Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
What have you been up to, both of you?
We've been going around, touring the country throughout the Christmas, doing tax forum.
Okay.
It's been really good.
Okay.
Take it as a responsibility.
We are yet to take our break.
Wow. Okay, so let's delve right in 2019 in review.
Yes.
What were some of your highlights, Leonard?
I think my highlights for 2019 will be some of the policies that we saw, like the upward review of the personal income tax, because that's something that we worked on in our review of the 2018 budget, 2018-2019 budget. And we, as a coalition, are happy that government in the 2020 budget took note of some of the recommendations that we made. And then we saw an upward review of about 12%, which, looking at the lower bands, isn't much, but it's a step in the right direction. We also saw some upward review of personal reliefs, like in the LEAP program. And those are positives because these are policies that inure to the benefit of those down there. So those were, and then in 2019 also, we saw, unfortunately, government engaging and listening to civil society and not just brushing them aside. And we saw that with the review in the communication tax initiative that came about, and then also with the luxury vehicle levy. And I think those were positives, and it's good that when CSOs come about with feedback on public policy, they are not brushed aside as some people motivated by politics, but then the issues are looked at for their merits, and then the recommendations that inure to the benefit of the generality are taken on board. And I think those were some positives when we hope that going into 2020, we'll have such constructive and positive engagement with government, because at the end, it's government that is at the policy engine room and cannot see all around it. Those of us looking from without see a lot that we can help with our recommendations, and we hope that we'll have that such positive engagement going into 20, and it will be to the benefit of all of us.
Okay, Doc, were there any specific policies that needed to be tweaked? I know Leonard already mentioned the luxury vehicle tax and the communication tax, but were there others as well?
Yeah, I think things that to be looked at going forward, personally, would be, well, back to what Leo said, is we're very happy the government listed with the luxury vehicle levy.
Yes.
I remember on this
they didn't really have any choice.
On this very platform, it was weekly affair.
Yeah.
And it was really good and fulfilling to realize that the job you're doing is actually yielding a result. And to me, going forward, I think that relationship is what we need. We look at things from general perspective without attaching the political lenses. We come in as experts or people with the marginalized at heart. So when we're making all the noise about the luxury vehicle levy, there were genuine reasons and genuine concerns as to why the policy itself had a problem. Well, it's not been scrapped. My understanding is more like suspended. So hopefully it might be back again. But if it's coming, what you're looking at is that there are two types of taxes which were put into one. So if they are thinking of bringing it back, I don't expect it this year, but probably 2021. If it's coming, it's a huge revenue potential, no doubt, and we need it. in terms of wealth taxation, it's very low in Ghana. So the luxury vehicle presents a very good opportunity and a platform for government to earn something. But then we also need to look at environmental taxation, because these are two types of taxes, both of which stand very good chance of generating substantial revenue.
What about the environmental taxation?
So the environmental taxation, what we do is that government would like to kind of like a sin tax, taxes we put on alcohol and things to change the behavior. So if you increase the taxes on cars with high carbon emission, which are impacting on the environment and our health, what government is trying to do is that stop buying those vehicles, buy low-capacity engine vehicles to save the environment. So that's a different type of tax. And then we can have a wealth tax looking at the value of the car, just like we tax properties. It's also wealth, an asset. So there are two different types of taxes altogether. So if you're to come back, let's be clear. If you're taxing the environment, be clear what you tax. If you're taxing wealth, we need to be specific what forms the wealth tax. So to me, that was one of the biggest highlights. CST is another one.
Communication service tax.
Yes, the communication service tax.
Very
I still have a
controversial.
challenge with it. And to me, it kind of diffuses government's digitization agenda.
How so?
And because, almost everything is being digitized. And yesterday I was reading one paper, they call it Digimia. The name they're giving to Dr. Baumia, they call him Digimia, which is a very wonderful name.
Our colleague,
as somebody who is leading Ghana's digital agenda. And I think I would be proud if I was the one to be called Digi Ampa. So Digimia is a wonderful initiative they are pursuing. But then you're actually taking the poor people out by taxing data and the credit they will use to access the internet.
But was the intention to tax the poor people or the telcos themselves?
It's an indirect tax. And it's not different from what is happening in Uganda. Uganda president said we use social media for gossip. So therefore, he's going to introduce social media tax. And they did actually last year introduce social media tax.
Wow.
Just to curb gossiping.
But is that sustainable?
It's not. Well, the issue is that now over 1.2 million have now gone out of Facebook in Uganda, and you actually have to pay before you use it.
Wow.
And it's 200 shillings a day. A day. And it's charged. Once you want to check your WhatsApp,
you have to pay.
The notification will come. You pay before you can access it. WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, all banned. So this CST is kind of a backdoor to what is happening in Uganda. The kind of similarities. So my advice is, we want to go digitize, yes. We have very few areas where we can get revenue, therefore lots of indirect taxes. But this particular tax, I think going into 2020, government need to have a real look at it again. And to me, if there is a way out, we need to maintain the original percentage what it was, rather than the 9%. Because I think, to me, it's not helping. It's one particular tax.
So take the additional 3.
Yeah, to me, it's one particular tax. I think it kind of make the digitization agenda difficult. People complain a lot, and it's affecting the very poor people we're trying to support.
But do you feel as though there's a slight disconnect between policymakers and the reality on the ground? Because as a policymaker, you want to tax everybody so that you can put it into social services, but then situations where you're thinking the telcos will eat it up and they say, no, I'm passing it to the customer. How do you predict this before you even go out to the general public to say we're going to tax this?
Well, I don't think government will be right to be imposing indirect tax and expect a telco to absorb it. Because...
But they absorbed it the first time around.
They did. But that shouldn't be the basis for you to keep taxing them. And this time they didn't. And even if they absorbed, in the long term, there's a long-term tax implication for their corporation taxes. Because some of this will eat into their cost of doing business. So in effect, it reduces their profitability, and the impact will still be felt when they go to the point of paying the corporation tax. I think we need to look for more avenues, especially the informal sector. And we keep making this all the time. It's a huge sector with a massive revenue potential. To me, one of the things we're appealing to government is that the informal sector is very difficult to be taxed by the GRA, if I'll be honest. And to me, it's time we try something new.
Okay.
The recommendation I will give is that let's allow the local assemblies to administer informal sector taxes. The Honorable DCE and his assemblymen know every corner and every business. So if you allow them to collect the taxes, then we can do revenue sharing. So you consolidate all the small taxes these guys will have to pay, collect all in one, and then at the end of the period, GRA and the local assemblies will now do revenue sharing. Because one of the things is that people don't pay because they don't understand it. We're going around, one of the messages is, we've paid our tax and they are coming back again. To them, the local tax is equivalent to GRA taxes. And it's causing a whole lot of issue. They don't know where they are, who they are. Look at the night and dawn businesses. Assembly can easily locate these people and tax them. GRA, to me, should concentrate on more formal sector. And it's time to invite the local assemblies to take the lead. This can be the new common fund to get them working.
Okay, speaking of GRA, do you feel as though GRA met its targets for 2019?
I think it was in the news recently that I think the chairperson of the board of the GRA stated that they've met their target. But
what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, but then we also knew that those same targets were reviewed downwards.
Okay.
So maybe if that revision had not happened, the story might be different. But then I'm not even focused on the volumes that GRA collects. I'm interested in the number of new taxpayers that the GRA adds on in a given fiscal year.
Okay.
And I think that standard of volume collected is too low. And I mean, at times they are able to reach, surpass. But then we have a huge population operating in the informal sector.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge for this country. So any tax administrator who is given that mandate should have that one as one of his key performance indicators that they will be assessed on. How do you deal with the challenge of the informal sector? How many people are you able to bring into the formal sector in a given fiscal year? And I think we've not been able to look at that very well. So oftentimes they come, we've met our targets, and so this is, if you look at the real value, and you factor in inflation and all of that. But then I think they need commendation also because they also operate within some difficulties. And one of the difficulty has to do with the exemptions that are given and which are not well regulated. So at times they might have a target, but then the exemptions given out by government may deplete or may frustrate the attainment of that target.
Do you think GRA has done enough to prioritize taxing the informal sector, or it's just a beast they would rather not?
I think we've not challenged them. Okay. We've not. I mean, administrators, bureaucrats everywhere looked at what they assessed on. That's what they looked at. So if you not challenge them with that, they pursue the volumes because that's what you're interested in. We collected X amount of cities in a year. But then what's the context? And we lose sight of the bigger picture in which they operate. So I think we've not challenged them with the issue of the informal sector. And I think that's where policy have to be looking at. That's the biggest challenge as a country, how to widen
the tax net.
The tax net. So how do you set performance indicators that challenges the GRA to also pay serious attention? Because if you're assessing them on that, believe me, they will start also devising strategies internally to make some inroads on that. And I think going forward, these are some of the things that we have to be. Now we have, I think the GRA with their ITAP, they are doing well, trying also to go Digimia. So, but then they have to be able to make it relevant to the challenges of the informal sector, so that it becomes a tool towards, unfreezing the potential revenue from that sector.
Okay. So, Doc, you guys have been touring the country all of 2019. What should we expect from Oxfam in 2020? Because we all have to pay our taxes, guys.
Yes.
We need to.
Well, as you know, Oxfam's position is we are in for pro-poor spending. We want the government to allocate more to areas where there are vulnerable people. Education, healthcare, and things that will bridge gender equality gap, inequality gap. So what Oxfam is doing, one of the key initiatives we are hoping will be a breakthrough in our property taxation is that we have designed, we are in the process of designing an app to tax properties.
Nice.
We are going to do with 2 districts over a period. So you will pilot, you keep the GRA in view and in contact with assemblies. And then afterwards, so you call that one Digital Property Tax Initiative. So that will be hopefully the app should finish by April. So that's the first one, Digital Property Tax application. That collects all the landlord data. If it's a rented, then there's rental income. So there's a whole lot.
How does this solve this property tax issue that
It's a
we've
massive
had
step.
for a very long time?
It's a massive step because one of the key things we have is proper valuation within the property sector. You don't get any notification. Somebody just bump into your house with a letter, I'm collecting property tax. The question is, why? But we want a situation where the taxpayer able to log on the app, on their phone, to check their property valuation, able to challenge if they disagree with the valuation. And then we come out with the rateable value, annual rateable value, to be able to raise. It's a very
transparent process.
Very transparent. You can pay with mobile money. You can check if your account is up to date, if you're in arrears, you get reminders. It's a massive, comprehensive app.
How does this also solve the issue of corruption?
Exactly. Because as part of the app, maybe when I come next week or 2, you'll be able to give they've sent dummy how far they've got to. You're able to thumbprint or you're able to sign.
Nice.
So if I come to you and I pay 100 Ghana, you look at the 100 Ghana, you look at my phone and then thumbprint or sign. That goes straight to the assembly's office. So by the time, if I'm the tax collector, by the time I get to the assembly, it shows you've already paid. And then quickly, receipt is generated electronically and sent to your mobile phone. So it's a very comprehensive app, and hopefully you can also access on the internet. It's linked with the assembly system, so they communicate. So that's the first initiative. The other one is the Ghana Responsible Tax Index, which you talked about last. What we want to promote is corporate tax responsibility. And we want to see how responsible are the companies operating in Ghana. We are using different sectors and different parameters to assess, for example, how timely do you pay your taxes? Do you disclose your tax incentives? Do you give out your contextual accounting data? Is your tax information available for people to see? So all this will be used to rank companies sector by sector, property section, extractive industry, hotels. So at the end of the year, you're going to make a yearly affair. The first ranking should start. Methodology is ongoing. We actually had a meeting yesterday to review. That should be finished by 10th of April. And then testing should be somewhere July, August for the first phase for us to rank the companies. And then we have tax exemptions. You know, last year there was this tax exemption bill. Everybody's happy, jubilate. All of a sudden, everything has gone quiet. And to me, I think we did that to please the IMF.
Really?
Yes, because it was one of our conditions that we need to reform our exemptions when we went on the bailout. So we just produced paperwork to show them that we presented a bill before Parliament. But we are losing billions of Ghanaian cedi every year. So it is time for us to revisit it, They produced a document. There were some few challenges. I think we did talk about it sometime. It's time for Parliament to push the next step of amending the bill.
Yeah.
So we save Ghana millions of dollars or cedis every year. We can't afford to let those exemptions go unnoticed. Companies have been enjoying for years. Nobody checks them to see what they are getting.
Yeah.
So that's also one project we're due to finish. We're doing very detailed one, this time with key sectors, extractives, the hotels, and the telecom companies, to show government how much we're losing using these three sectors. Detailed study. That should finish by end of March.
Okay.
And then the last one we're doing is called the FTM, the Fair Tax Monitor. If you walk into Ghana and you want an easy way to have an access to our tax document, you might have bits and pieces. But you want to produce one comprehensive document that kind of put the tax using 6 pillars. How progressive is our tax system, our tax administration, the quality of it, tax revenue, transparency. There are few, I think in total there are 6 indicators. So if you're new to Ghana, you pick that document, it should communicate to you how Ghana's tax system is, and we're able to compare to other countries.
Currently, what do we have to use as an indicator?
You have to be picking one policy after another from the GRA website. And some of them are very complex for the ordinary individual without tax background or without law to understand. So the Fair Tax Monitor, and also help us crucially to see how tax and inequality linked up in Ghana, especially tax and gender, whether our tax policies are gender sensitive. Because
speaking of tax and inequality, I'm not taking you back, but do you see any significant results from the taxes of last year and how it reflected in solving issues like gender inequality, health issues, education, etc., so that when the tax people meet us as taxpayers, will be more willing to pay?
I think we are doing well as a country. We have the free senior high school, which is one of the biggest inequality measures government has taken. And you can make a case that government is taking steps to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor by making sure everybody has access to education. I think Leo did mention about the LEAP, money going up a bit. These are some of the steps you can see, and these are all will be covered in the Fair Tax Monitor report. So I think as a country, some of the interventions, the social interventions, are gradually getting somewhere, but we can do more. We can do more. For example, providing a hospital in an area where people have to walk miles.
On a bad road. On
a bad road, pregnant women having to travel on a motorbike. If you are having this, then you have issue with tax and gender. Because if you use a tax revenue well to cater or build a hospital in that area, we are actually promoting gender equality because we are serving the need of the pregnant women in the same way the dose of the male. Areas where daughters have to go and fetch water. If you use tax money to provide potable water, drinking water, you're actually bridging the gender inequality.
But do we communicate this clearly enough for the general public to feel a responsibility to pay taxes, or does it all come across as some political gains, so then we as Ghanaians can't connect to all these social services?
It's something we have to do more, and there's gender responsive budgeting. There's an arm. We have started an initiative, we call it the CSO Budget Forum. What we have done, led by Oxfam, but with all the other coalitions. Actually,
especially tax justice.
Leo is the man actually handling it now. And what we want to do, the CSO Budget Forum, is to make sure that all civil society organizations come together as one. Every year we represent and give our input in the budget. But how can we now have one body representing all NGOs in Ghana, sending our input to the Ministry of Finance? That would be more robust, because we have those working on gender coming with their input. Those working on education will come with their input. Those working on other pillars of inequality will come with their input. So at the end, we have kind of a solid documents going forward.
Leonard, what to expect in 2020 aside touring around and spreading the gospel of taxation?
2020 is an election year. And we don't want another Polycar refrain of, you now know Akadompe. So I think we are going to stay wide awake. We've started an initiative known as the Financial Bleeding Register. And I think the inception is in this month, where we're going to provide a public memory and record of incidents of public pilferage that is recorded in the news, but often just goes by and then everybody forgets. Now we don't want people to forget. We want to create a public memory. So we're going to have this online register where we will be recording these incidents, and then we're going to generate out of it half-yearly reports that will look at what happened, what the remedial actions have been, and what the outstanding matters are, and the way forward on those. So we'll keep going back at it, because this time we don't want to forget. And it's in election years that we end up with huge fiscal deficit gaps, and it's not by accident, because people have to finance their elections, and so as citizens, we need to be. So
how do we get to a point where we even decrease that budget? Because we're a developing country.
Yeah, so I think that's why we have to work as a collective, civil society and other partners who would want to come on board to look at how we close the fiscal deficit gap, because it's as though that's some constant every election year to expect. And I'm not saying it will happen, but I think as citizens, as civil society organizations, that has to be one of the things that we should be watching out for, and making sure that we help to curb it. Because at the end of the day, what happens is that it takes away resources from our schools. It takes away resources from the National Health Insurance Scheme, and people go to hospitals and they are sent away because bills have not been paid for months. And if we are able to be vigilant and then curb that, I think we will also contribute to some improvement in social services delivery. So that's one thing that we are going to look at. And then the other thing we want to do is to replicate our engagement at the national level, at the local level. So we also want to look at...
And you started doing that since last year.
Yes, but then now we want to look at the sub-regional level. We want to look at the district assemblies. So how citizens, tax citizens within the districts are also engaging the district assembly on their plans for collection of levies and utilization of internally generated funds, because we need that level of engagement, we need that level of citizens follow-up to ensure that we are getting value for money. So at the national level, and also we will not be able to be in all the districts, but then we are selecting some districts that we can use as models of how citizens can engage with their local government authorities to improve domestic mobilization initiatives, and also utilization of the realized revenue. And hopefully we'll be able to share lessons of our engagement in these districts with other districts, both in Ghana and abroad. We invite partners to join us on this initiative, because it's...
How do they join?
By contacting the coalition. I mean, you can... anybody who is interested in following us can visit us at tjcghana.org. That's our website, and we have a lot of contact details that they can use for their follow-up.
Okay. Now, Doc, walk us through how we should engage taxation this year, both from the level of the average citizen who does not necessarily see the output of their tax, the taxman who might want to go to Makola and keep 50% and report 50%, and policymakers who theoretically their ideas might be great, but practically it does not necessarily serve the interest of Ghanaians?
I think from the taxpayer's perspective, one mentality we have to do away with is that, oh, tax no create. I keep getting that a lot. You know, tax money is, you use it for something. You have to be realistic.
But sometimes you're in traffic and you see people just driving V8s all over the place. You have to move aside. It has a way of making you feel like, am I funding this luxurious lifestyle?
I understand from that perspective. But if you look at how much you spend on our police force, how much you spend on our nurses and doctors, how much you spend on
students,
our health students, our student nurses, and it's how much you spend on our army. There's a whole lot that goes in. So we can't say you need the tax can here.
Okay.
And the tax money is too small, therefore you keep borrowing.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to leave a burden, please, the way we put in effort in our churches in paying tithes, let's put in that effort and believe that by contributing our quota, government will stop borrowing and Ghana will go beyond aid. Yeah. I want a Ghana that is sustainable, able to finance itself, and doesn't have to depend on IMF or something. Because if you don't, very soon I can see us going back again.
Yeah.
From the tax policy perspective, one thing is that government needs to, and I mean governments, whoever will come from successive government, government year to come, is that they need to see tax as a national thing. Sometimes the politics around the tax is too much. I know every country it happens, but Ghana is too much. Somebody will come and say, this is nuisance tax, I don't want it. Somebody will come and say, luxury vehicle, when I come, I will get rid
of it.
Rename it into something. This all doesn't help. And I was using Georgia. Within 2 years of going through the same reform, they fully financed their budget. Fully.
Wow.
2 years. We have been going through this reform for God knows almost 15 years. Why? Because MPP will come, they have different ideas, and this will rubbish everything. And this will do, MPP will come and rubbish everything. This is our national money. Yeah. It's not NDC, it's not MPP. We need to understand that when it comes to tax conversation, it is issue of our national development. And we are not getting far with the informal sector simply because of political reasons. It's not GRA. I would never put all the blame on the GRA for the poor informal sector performance. Studies are saying there's 70% or so of people operating in the informal sector. And out of this, only 2% are paying taxes. The question is why? Because politicians are not willing to come out with the required policy measures which will make them lose the next election. There are practical steps we can adopt to tax the informal sector, tackle the leakages, but nobody is bold enough to say, you know what, I want to do it. Who want to reform the property tax? There are so many opportunities in the informal sector. They represent 70% of our economy. That tells you how big the sector is. There are millionaires in the sector. But for political reasons, okay,
so we will leave the tax man for the next conversation.
And government have to involve us more. Because the think tanks, the CSOs, we work for the betterment of the country. We don't work for any political party. So sometimes when you come knocking, they should let their doors in because we are not just there to waste their time. We are there because we have something concrete to offer. I think the tax conversation, we can do it. Ghana Beyond Aid is definitely possible. But to take our collective efforts
to make it happen. Thank you so much. Dr. Alex Ampaabeng is a Fiscal Policy Specialist from Oxfam, Ghana. And it's important, okay? We need to start paying our taxes. That's the only way we can develop. We can't go begging every single time. And of course, Leonard Shang-Quart is from Tax Justice Coalition. We hope you've enjoyed the show.
Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, and share with your friends.
This is Breakfast Daily on Citi TV.
Join the Breakfast Daily team Monday through Fridays from 7:30 a.m. to 10. Join us for breakfast daily, only on Citi TV.